preparing the meat's not much different for chicken as it is most other types of meat. You prepare it. I've cut off a few pieces of excess flesh on the back and remove the innards and things like that. And then now I'll just season it with some rub. I'm using a Cook Shack spicy chicken rub. You get it on there pretty liberally. You know, there's not really any reason to not put a fair amount on. And you'll flip it. The same on both sides. Now the chicken, the internal temperature that you need it to get to is 170. So I'll be putting the thermometer in, or the thermometer in there to make sure that the temperature is accurate. And you typically do that by finding a thick part of the meat so that it's you're getting an accurate read. If you do it too shallow, you'll get an early result and the meat will not be done. And on something like chicken especially, you want to make sure that you leave it in there for the appropriate amount of time. And also for pork and steak and such is not typically as big of an issue. There's not as much E. coli kind of problems with that. Now, I wouldn't suggest eating it raw, that's just me. So some people like to tie the chicken shut, tie it so that the pieces don't fall open. I don't really care that much about that. So that's just a preference thing. And we'll put this in after we put it in the smoker, and you'll see why in that video. But I typically put this little remote sensor right here in the breast, where it's a thick part of the meat. Other people prefer in the thigh. So again, it's kind of a personal preference thing. You do want to make sure that you have a pretty good cross section of what the temperatures are. So what I'll do is I'll cook it until this area is 170, and then I'll check other areas around to see what their temperature is. If they vary too greatly or if they're too far below 170, then I'll put it back in, or I will pull it out of the smoker. So that's an overview of preparing it. Really, the big process here is if you've marinated it or if you've put this in a brine that's already completed, then you season it with your rub, and then we take it out to the smoker. Another piece of information to keep in mind when you're preparing the meat, you want to keep the temperature below 40 degrees prior to putting it in the smoker. So what I'm actually going to do, because I have a few things to prepare in the meantime, like moving the camera and such like that, I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator to keep that temperature. The reason why it's so important with smoking as opposed to grilling or other forms of cooking is that it's a slow cook. Anywhere between 40 degrees and 140 degrees is kind of the danger zone, is what they term it. And that's the zone where bacteria grows a lot easier and a lot faster. And because, again, it's slow cooked, there's a higher chance of that happening if you're not careful about it. Well, once you put it in the smoker, typically the temperature rises relatively quickly and it's safe, so you don't have to feel concerned about that. But just know that in the preparation stage, it's not good to say, prepare the piece of meat that you're going to smoke, then go mow the lawn, and then, whatever, go out to eat with the family, and then put things in. You really want to make sure that it's okay, now that it's set up, I'm putting it in the smoker, or putting it back in the refrigerator until the smoker's ready.